It's 2 a.m., you're staring at the ceiling. Your phone is face down beside you because you promised yourself you wouldn't check it again. Your mind is racing through a conversation from 3 days ago that doesn't even matter anymore. You assume this is a modern problem. It isn't. For most of human history, people didn't sleep the way you do. They didn't expect to. And the way they handle the dark hours of the night might explain more about your restless brain than any sleep app ever will. Start with a simple question. Why do you wake up in the middle of the night? You've probably been told this means something is wrong. Stress, screens, too much coffee, and sure, those don't help. But historian A. Roger Ekirch spent over 15 years digging through diaries, court records, and medical texts from pre-industrial Europe. What he found didn't match the modern story at all. Before artificial light existed, people slept in two distinct shifts. They called it first sleep and second sleep. You'd go to bed a couple hours after sunset, you'd sleep for about 4 hours, and then you'd simply wake up. Not from stress, not from a bad dream, just awake. And this waking period wasn't treated as a problem, it was expected. People used it. They prayed. They talked quietly with a partner. They tended a low fire. Some visited neighbors. Midwives even recommended this window for conception, believing it produced calmer children. After an hour or two of this quiet wakefulness, people drifted back into second sleep until dawn. This wasn't a fringe practice. Ekirch found over 500 references to segmented sleep in historical documents, spanning centuries and crossing cultures, from Homer's Odyssey to Charles Dickens' novels. This was simply how humans slept. So what changed? Artificial light changed it. Gas lamps in the 1700s. Electric light in the 1800s. Suddenly the boundary between day and night blurred. Nights got shorter. Bedtimes got pushed later. And gradually segmented sleep collapsed into the single 8-hour block you now think of as normal. Here's the strange part. Your body might not have gotten the memo. In 1990, psychiatrist Thomas Ware ran an experiment that echoed Ekirch's historical findings almost perfectly. He placed a group of participants in a room with 14 hours of darkness each night, no artificial light, no clocks, nothing to disrupt their natural rhythm. No screens, no schedules. Within about a month, their sleep spontaneously split into two segments. They'd sleep for a few hours, wake calmly for 1 or 2 hours in the middle of the night, then fall back into a second sleep. Nobody taught them to do this. Their bodies simply reverted to an older pattern, one buried underneath centuries of modern lighting. Does this sound familiar? That 2 a.m. wake-up you dread might not be insomnia at all. It might be your biology trying to do something it was built to do millions of years ago before anyone told it that wasn't allowed. But here's where it gets even more interesting. What did ancient humans actually do with that gap of wakefulness long before candles or clocks existed? Anthropologists studying present-day hunter-gatherer groups, including the Hadza of Tanzania, have found something surprising. Sleep researcher Jerome Siegel led a study monitoring the sleep patterns of 3 remote pre-industrial societies. None of them showed rigid segmented sleep, like Ekirch's European records, but none of them stressed about waking in the night either. For these groups, the boundary between sleep and wakefulness was soft. Someone might tend the fire at 3 a.m., while others slept beside them. Nobody labeled it a disorder. Nobody reached for their phone to check the time. There simply wasn't the anxiety layered on top of the waking itself. That anxiety is the part that's new, not the waking. Think about why waking in the night might have mattered to your ancestors in the first place. A body that sleeps too deeply, for too long, without interruption, is a vulnerable body. Predators moved at night. Fires needed tending. Infants needed checking. A segmented, lighter form of sleep may have been an adaptation, not a flaw. Some researchers argue it kept early humans alert enough to survive the most dangerous hours of the day, while still getting enough rest to function. Your ancestors weren't broken sleepers. They were alert ones. Now think about what you do the moment you wake up at 2 a.m. today. You reach for your phone, you check the time, calculate how many hours you have left, and immediately feel a spike of dread. That dread releases cortisol. Cortisol makes it harder to fall back asleep. So you lie there, anxious about not sleeping, which is precisely what keeps you from sleeping. You've turned a normal biological pause into a crisis. Sleep researcher Russell Foster, who studies circadian rhythms at Oxford, has pointed out that a huge amount of what gets diagnosed as middle-of-the-night insomnia might simply be this: a normal biphasic pattern, misinterpreted through a modern lens that insists sleep must be one unbroken block, or else something is wrong. So what would it look like to treat that waking hour the way your ancestors did? Not as a malfunction, not as a countdown to disaster, but as a quiet window. A pause built into the architecture of a human night. That's the modern mirror here. You live in a world engineered to erase darkness, streetlights, phone screens, 24-hour everything. You've inherited a body built for a much darker, much slower night, and then surrounded that body with light it never evolved to handle. The next time you wake at 2 a.m., you might not be failing at sleep. You might be doing something that hundreds of generations of humans in the dark, without a single clock in sight, did every single night. Not from a book, not from a doctor's advice, from something older than both. It's 2 a.m. You're staring at the ceiling. But maybe, for the first time, that isn't something to fix.